All right, folks, happy almost February. We are going to be doing a pick a card with these two decks, the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot by Avalon Cameron, with art by, I think that says Tourian, and then the Witch Alley Oracle Dodie McKay with art by Laura Tempest Zakroff. So you will be picking from an oracle and tarot. Okay, so to start, this is the mass market Bonestone Earthflesh. It's by Blue Angel. My publicist at Llewellyn gave me a copy of it. I've used it a couple of times. The cardstock, people always complain about Llewellyn being too thin. Blue Angel, not Llewellyn. They're just a distributor. This is a little bit thicker. It can be a little bit challenging without some of the niceties when you have a thicker cardstock, but for our purposes, doesn't affect a pick a card. Just affects this awkward trying to shuffle on camera. So 1, 2, 3. Try to get this in some sort of centered fashion. I'm going to read them all upright, so don't worry if one feels reversed, but you want it. It's just going to be upright when I reveal it. And then we have this other deck, the Witch's Ally Oracle. Just a little something fun. I will. Do we have? I will be reading from the book for it because I've used this 3 times, twice for myself, and then once the first time I recorded this. And fun fact, it turned out that my headphones 2 rooms away were connected to my phone, so it didn't pick anything up. But we have pair 1, pair 2, pair 3. Let yourself choose what you're looking for, then I will reveal them, and then we will zoom in. All right, so pair 1, chicken, and 3 of pentacles. This is giving me practical farm community energy. Pair 2, we have vulture, and 2 of cups. Okay, this is gonna be deep intensity, perhaps past life stuff, soulmate connections, etc., picking up loose threads. Number 3, whale, and 10 of swords. This is deep, deep stuff for sure. As I said, I don't know what the animal cards mean by themselves. I have never pulled these particular 3, but even if I had, I probably would not have the full memory of what they meant. So I will be reading them, but I just wanted to show them to you before we zoom in on the interpretations. Okay, so literal zoom in here with chicken and the 3 of pentacles. The chicken is associated in this deck with, where is it? Fertility, provision, hospitality, service, and plenty. Messages from chicken. Service that involves sacrifice may be necessary, not for your own comfort, but for the well-being of your community. Slow down. Running around without a plan is causing chaos. Welcome others into your space and share the best of your resources. The effort will be received with deeper gratitude than you will know. Certainly this feels very fitting for the 3 of Pentacles energy. Right, caring for others, paying attention to community, right, a little bit of sacrifice, slowing down. What's interesting is when I did cards for these the first time, the second pile actually had pig and the 5 of cups, the elephant who mourns, and there was something about the need to not sacrifice in a selfish way. And interestingly, pile 1 was about the need to slow down, to sort of go quickly, then pause, see how things are going. This feels like a combination of those two, so and that's much more coherent than those two were. So it feels like a really nice, consistent message to come together, form a plan, don't try to do things on your own, don't try to be the savior for everyone else, even though you may be asked to make sacrifices. It's not on you to determine what other people need. Instead, actually, figure that out in community, right? Will be much appreciated. As I said, there is a kind of like farming vibe to this, obviously, farm community vibe. If you are looking for practical skill development, definitely learn some things about actual vegetable gardens, farming, those sorts of practical, hands in the dirt kinds of things. Raising chickens, right? If you are looking for sort of intellectual curiosity kind of activities, right? Things to learn about, read about. There's a documentary called The Biggest Little Farm that I found totally fascinating. There's, some sad moments, but the idea that inspired that particular farm, I mean, God knows if they're good people, I have no idea. But the idea, the philosophy behind it was very cool, what they were doing. But you may also discover different like utopian or communal organizations geared towards sort of simpler farm living. So here in Arizona, we have a place called Arcosanti. It's, I had giant dreams 50 years ago. It has not achieved those. It's a very small community, but it is still very cool. So looking up those communities, wherever it is that you live, could be a fun little research project for yourself. Okay. Let's look at number 2. So here we have Vulture and the Two of Cups. What does Vulture have to say? Vulture, unsurprisingly, is associated with death, exhaustion, rebirth, transmutation, and rest. So it's sort of the full cycle, dead, sleep. Messages from Vulture. The past is holding you back. Let it rest and start fresh. The bond you had with someone dear who has died is still strong, and you will continue to have that connection whenever you need it. The level of grief you are feeling is a reflection of the love that you felt before things changed. And I love this. When working on my Shadow mini workbook, I was looking at a variety of emotions that are sometimes seen as bad, right, for one reason or another, but actually have either reflections in emotions that we can more easily appreciate, or like they come from a good place, and it's just culturally how we've learned to identify them as bad. One of those was grief, right? And it comes from love. And so I really like this connection in particular for Vulture and the Two of Cups, right? Because the Two of Cups is so clearly about love, deep soul connections, that sort of thing. As I said, there may be some like past life soulmate stuff. I hate the idea of twin flames. The way that they're popularized, I think, is like literally backwards from what we're supposed to do with them in this lifetime, which is to not get burned. However, it does feel a little bit like if you are in that kind of headspace, right? Like to allow the past to be the past and to allow some, reincarnation to have evolved, right? These relationships that we carry from past lives, from different parts of our current lives, they are designed to change over time. They are not meant to just, repeat the exact same cycle over and over and over again, because what would be the point of that, right? There would be no evolution or growth or lessons learned. With this, right, we have the death connection. If someone is close, if you've lost someone close to you, can really feel that connection still there. Definitely tying into spirit work, mediumship work, honoring their life as much as you honor their death, right? Even if they are gone. And then, of course, things that feel like they have died but aren't necessarily a person or ever having had like a literal life, right? Those can also be honored for what they were, as well as, what they no longer are, whether that is a transformation and evolution or just a painful but necessary ending sometimes, right? But there is a lot of clearing energy coming through with Vulture. Vulture is the carrion feeder, right? So they will clean up the roadkill, as it were. So if you feel like your love life had some roadkill in it, allow Vulture to do the work that Vulture is going to do. It is part of a necessary process, even if they get a lot of, flack for being kind of ugly. But yeah, sometimes love is also a little bit ugly, and we get to clean it up. What else? Other relationships. I think, right, we have Vulture. We also have the Vulture goddess from Egypt. I think Nekbet is her name. Can't remember off the top of my head, though. Right, this idea of connection to particular animal spirits. This whole deck is the Witch's Ally Oracle, right? So allowing yourself to find deep connection with an animal ally, particularly birds, right? These are often common, crows or ravens, vultures. These are the sort of death goddess birds that a lot of us are drawn to at different points in life. It doesn't have to be one of those kinds of birds, but don't be surprised if it is, if the Morrigan is calling to you with a crow or a raven, if Nekbet is calling to you with a vulture, if someone else is calling to you with a cleanup creature, listen to that call. All right, and then for pile 3, we have Whale and the Ten of Swords. Let's see what Whale's message is. I think of Whale, this is very different, from the Animal Spirits deck by The Wild Unknown. Is very much about like deep, intuitive, inner spiritual work. Whale in this deck is a little bit different. It represents solitude, contemplation, telepathy, truth, and harmony. That telepathy sort of struck me as a surprise, but of course they do communicate long distance, so that makes sense. Messages from Whale. Watch for subtle cues and read the subtext of what is being said or not said in order to assess the situation. Reevaluate the situation for deeper causes to the problem below the surface. The messages you are receiving are private, not meant to be shared at this point. Be patient for the right moment. So, with this, I think the Ten of Swords, we often, interesting, that is carrion, that some carrion feeders are biting away at. I think we often think about the Ten of Swords as the death and destruction, but it is very much in the suit of swords, right? So we think of communication, we think of the mental realm, thoughts, and having sort of like come to the end, the logical end of a thought, right? Things coming to their inevitable conclusion, needing to rethink some things, recommunicate. So we can be really focused on the death, but actually it's less physical, usually. That said, in this deck, this is the Earthflesh card. So there's Bonestone and Earthflesh. I don't even remember if there is a Bonestone card, but the Ten of Swords, certainly. Earthflesh does focus on the bodiness of this as opposed to the thoughtsness. That said, Whale really does speak to the need to think through some things, to think through your communication, to remember when you can be silent, remember when you can hold some things in your head without saying them out loud, because either they will do more harm than good or you're going to regret them. or you're just going to have shown your hand when you didn't need to. So keeping those things in mind, allowing for silence to help you identify what is safe, what is appropriate, and just really sort of taking an extra beat there. I'm trying to remember what the original third pile was. Oh, it was Peacock and Eight of Wands. It was very like vain and energized and exciting and sort of violent, but quick. You had to like jump on the opportunity that came to you. This is totally different. This is much slower paced. Interesting how almost opposite it is from the original third pile message. But I do think it's almost like the outcome of that kind of quick action that I was interpreting for cards you never saw. And right, like really allowing yourself to swim through the unknown. I think that's a big part of Whale. And then of course, as you're rethinking, as you're cutting off old thoughts, as you are sitting with the repercussions of what has been, of what is yet to come, that feels inevitable, right? That kind of being willing and able to swim through the murk, the darkness, the unknown without necessarily losing your way. I mean, the fact that this is associated with solitude also gives kind of hermit vibes. So there's a kind of hermity energy carrying through. But this really does suggest silence, observation, rethinking, and not rushing into anything, because you still have to wait to see like, okay, what is this going to turn into? I gave little practical advice for the first pile. I guess I gave sort of practical advice for the second pile. What would that be in this case? This feels like deep inner reflective work. It's almost like underworld work, but not quite. And I don't want to just like, lean on shadow work, because that's my go-to for everything, I feel like. But it is more like deep journaling work. There's also a kind of split personality here, if we think astrologically, because the Ten of Swords is associated with the sun ruling the final decan of Gemini, which is, of course, the sun, right? It's for the Northern Hemisphere, where astrology is essentially the astrology we know was created. It's almost summertime, right? That particular card. And so there's a real warmth and brightness that is in stark opposition to the coldness and darkness through which Whale is often moving. Yeah, so it does feel a little bit like balancing the light and the dark, bringing light to the dark, but not being afraid of the dark as such, because you have that light of seeing within you. I don't know, I feel like if you pick this pile, you should do a lot of journaling. Just given that Gemini connection and the way that swords can sometimes be pens, that would be my practical advice to you. The sort of general advice would be more like, be patient and keep your damn mouth shut. Don't spill the beans on anything, because you may regret that in the long run. Okay, that's all I have for you. I hope that this was fun or interesting or helpful. Again, we were looking at the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot and the Witch's Ally Oracle.